Antlers, assumptions, and artillery. "So when are you two going to get started?" Martha asked them during breakfast. They were eating human style at a little cafe. Holly and Martha were getting the similar tasting, but safe synthesized stuff. But Bjorn had a meal coming up that was spicy, flavorful, and would kill about 9 out of every 10 people that tried it. "The food?" Bjorn asks, and Martha raises an eyebrow. "Lady, I woke up a half hour ago. Cut me some slack." "My grandbabies, you both saw me last night. I heard the conversation. When's it happening?" she asks, and Bjorn points to Holly. "When she chooses and no sooner. I'm perpetually of the attitude of I can take it, so I'm ready now, and I'll still be ready in 10, 20, and thanks to healing comas, 100 years. Bjorn answers, and Martha pivots on her seat until she's facing Holly, who's right beside her. "Not yet," Holly asks. "Then when?" "Later, when I know that they'll have more mothers than they'll be able to count until the age of 5. I want a full herd before we start having all the fawns, litters, cubs, kittens, or whatever else," Holly says. "Oh, a good plan. It also lets you have plenty of fun and start saving plenty of funds in preparation." "Exactly. I've just started my career as a professional trainer and have begun looking at different courses and further education. I've been thinking about the medical fields." "You're going into medicine?" "Chiropractic medicine looks interesting. Putting everything back into alignment and relieving pain with some gentle pushes and knocks. Maybe a massage therapist. It might not have been my choice, but I find I'm a very hands-on woman. We often find things that surprise us. I thought I was going to be a music star when I was a teenager, but I can't carry a tune in a glass if I need to. I tried to be the technician behind the musician, but I have all the artistic talent of a lump of hypercrete. What I am, though, is very diligent and thorough in all my work, no matter how boring. So instead of a life full of all the drugs, men, and public scandals, I instead have stable income with more kinds of insurance than some CEOs and a happy family life." "Oh, woe is me," Martha explains before ending with a sarcastic tone and a smile. "Really? What are the perks to a career in sanitation engineering?" "Well, shockingly high pay for how easy the work is. No one wants to do it, so the government is incentivized to keep us on. And being politicians, the first impulse is to throw money at the problem. In more than one way, the whole family gets tax write-offs for me working in sanitation. All told, I'm basically making millions of credits between all the saved wealth and my own wages. Couple that with basically a luxury suite of health insurance, and I'm sitting very pretty. It pays to be part of the government that the rest of them want to keep happy and out of the way." Martha boasts, and Bjorn chuckles. "Reminds me of some sayings in The Undaunted," he says, holding up 3 fingers. "There are 3 types of people you need to be on the good side of at all times. The admin, the quartermasters, and the cooks. One controls your money, one your gear, and one your food. Unless things go completely wrong, none of them will ever see combat or get big glory. But they're the people the big heroes tiptoe around. Even you? Yes, even me. Pissing off a cook is a good way to get nothing but the bad MREs for as long as they're upset. If the quartermaster has beef with you, then all your gear is suddenly due for inspection, and they're going to find a damn good reason you need to maintain all of them a dozen times over before they're satisfied. And admin, they control more than your pay. They can control your jobs with only superior officers countermanding that. If I give an admin a reason to really hate me, I might get pulled off Holly's protection. They wouldn't. They're professionals, so they won't. But they can. And I'd have to prove myself outright insane to provoke one of them to that level," Bjorn assures her. "Oh, okay. Although apparently they are studying our case because they don't want to turn protective custody and witness protection into engagement and then marriage with extra steps," Bjorn states. "And what's wrong with that? On an individual level, nothing. But if it becomes a pattern, it will be a problem. After all, if there are too many people in the program for consistent booty calls, then..." Bjorn is cut off as the waitress shows up with their meals. Omelets were the special of the day, and Martha had gone extra cheesy with hers, as Holly had decided to try a Carib-safe version of Bjorn's, who basically had salsa, mushrooms, and cheese dumped into his with bacon and sausages on the side, and some toast for cleanup. Holly pokes at the sausages a few times and spears one with her fork before taking a sniff. I know this is safe to eat. I know it's healthy, but the smell is so weird. You don't have to eat it. At my size, there's always room in the tank, Bjorn says, and she takes a bite of the sausage and chews. After a few moments, she swallows and then picks up her plate to dump off the sausages. At Bjorn's insistence, she gives the bacon a try, but ends up passing it to him as well. More for me, Bjorn notes as he takes a big bite of the bacon. So this is your last day here, I understand? It is. I just wanted to have a quick check-in for my little girl. Seeing a stable career, loving man, and close friends is more than I expected, Martha says happily, before taking a bite of her omelet. What were you expecting? Bjorn asks. Yes, Mom. What were you expecting? Holly asks. Denial, maybe? Not what was going on here. I've heard horror stories about what happens to people who go through things like what you did, Holly. Some of the most terrifying horror films show victims become monsters, Martha says. Do those victims have access to psychologists and constant help? Bjorn asks. The really scary ones do, showing the pain as something like a disease or poison that taints them regardless of what they do, Martha says. Stop watching horror movies. The people in those things have the resilience of used tissue paper and the collective IQ of an amoeba, Bjorn says. Hey, a voice says, and Bjorn turns around in his seat to see a somewhat pissed-off lime-green slob. I'm nowhere near as dumb as a horror movie character. Sorry. Bjorn apologizes and then turns back to Holly, whose hands are clamped over her mouth to stop herself from laughing out loud. Well, be that as it may, fears don't need to be rational for them to be felt, Martha says. Fair enough, although I'd focus... You know what? Never mind. Bjorn begins to tell her to focus on the actual horrors of the galaxy and not imagined ones. But telling her about the absolutely horrific things that the Undaunted have already encountered is not only a bad idea all around, but also illegal. She doesn't have clearance to know about those freaky clone monsters he can't remember the name of or the hate engine. Never mind what? Martha asked. It's just that the galaxy has enough problems without worrying about the imaginary ones, Bjorn says. Of course, I nearly said that in the worst way possible. Huh. Well, my trip out is in the later half of the day, so we still have time together, Martha says, and Bjorn considers even as he inhales about half his omelet. I've got an idea, he mutters after swallowing. You've had a few days here, right? Well, the next artillery exercise is a distance away from the arcology, but I can get us on it, if we hurry. What? But that's... Why would I want to do that? Martha asks, and he pauses. I mean, it was so loud from a distance, up close would be like getting punched by it almost. Fair enough, I suppose, but I don't have a lot of ideas on what to do today. Everyone's resting after last night's party and revelation, Bjorn remarks. Everyone left so quietly this morning. Do you think they... Holly starts to ask, and Bjorn shakes his head. They're not. They asked me not to say what they're doing, though, he says, and Holly huffs before giving him an annoyed look. He just eats a few sausages and smirks. Try harder. She actually does and tries a combination of puppy dog eyes and about to cry that has Martha suppressing her own laughter and Bjorn rolling his eyes hard. Really? Yes, really, she says. Can you tell me what they're up to? Martha asks, and Bjorn smirks. And trust you'll not tell Holly? No, I can't, he says, and she pouts a little. What, you think I don't have any form or pattern recognition? Come on. Okay. Think we should visit them and see what they're up to? No. They're going to ping my communicator and come find us. Let the surprise stay as a surprise. It's a nice thing they're doing. Let them do it, Bjorn chides. So it's a nice surprise, Holly asks, and Bjorn chuckles before starting on to his bacon. He had saved it for last so that the taste would linger a little, at least until he brushed his teeth. Fine, be that way, she says, and he shakes his head. So if there are no plans for today, how about you two just continue as normal and I'll just tag along? Martha offers, and Bjorn shares a look with Holly, who giggles. What? Well, if we're going about things as normal, Bjorn begins. You know, I should have seen this coming, Martha notes as she watches Holly race along a rapidly shifting holographic obstacle course. The readout has her as using almost no axiom at all, and moving at speeds that most would need a vehicle to get to. Yes, you should have, Bjorn says as he pulls himself up with one hand. His warm-up consisted of one-handed chin-ups and a nice 100 jumping jacks to get started. That'd give Holly the time to finish the obstacle course so he could use it. That way they wouldn't overcrowd the gym. Then Martha lets out a little sound of surprise as Bjorn suddenly grips the chin-up bar with both hands, and with an acrobatic kick, he's suddenly on top of it and doing vertical push-ups while balancing himself on the bar. Now you're just showing off. Me? Would I do that? Nah, Bjorn says after he goes through a dozen, then moves like a trapeze artist and throws himself off the bar before spinning in the air and landing with his arms out. Now I've shown off! Why was that admittedly impressive bit of movement the showing off? Martha asks. Because being as flexible and as agile as I am with this much muscle on me is damn hard to do, and it needs to be acknowledged, Bjorn says, and Martha outright laughs. There's the sound of a bit of a scuffle outside the gym, and he turns to see the girls there. He isn't sweaty yet, just a little warm. He waves them in, and by the time Holly has finished the first half of her warm-up, she emerges to find Irma, Salas, Lils, and Vera waiting for her. Hey girls, so Bjorn's been trying not to spoil things. That gets him a look, and he raises an eyebrow. What? You think she didn't notice you four slinking off to do something? Fine, Irma says before smiling up at Holly. We each have our own when we work in the store. They say who's what, and we decided to make you one for more family times. She holds up a small box and Holly takes it slowly to find a choker-style necklace inside with First Wife engraved on it. Holly is at a loss for words. So does this mean I'm getting one that says? Bjorn begins to ask, and Lil shuts him up with a hand around his mouth as Salas puts a choker on him, reading husband. Even after you heard that I used to... Holly pauses and looks around outside of them. The gym is empty. That I used to be Knife Top? You weren't Knife Top, just someone she hurt. Someone that won't let any of us be hurt that way. Someone we can trust for that, Irma says, and Holly's eyes start to water even as she puts on the choker. Thank you so much, she says before grabbing all four of them and pulling them close for a hug. With Lil's hand removed from his mouth, Bjorn laughs a little at the sweet, but still silly scene.